This was in the planning stage for months, but the one and only portage stuck in my mind like an awful chore I was trying to avoid. Naively, I let it sit in the shadows, ignoring the task until it was at hand. 2.5 kilometers. Pulling all of our gear and boats, 2.5 kilometers. At the start of the portage, I questioned whether I could even manage it. I questioned whether I'd put my paddling partner in a bad situation. Could she manage it? Whose idea was this? Repeated over and over in my head. We weren't backing down from the challenge. We hadn't before. This one was different. The high temperature and high altitude didn't help our situation. But you solve problems one step at a time, and that is what we did. It was a struggle. We could do the easy stuff, but we knew this lake was different. Once Lauren saw the sign informing us we were near, she took off and left me behind. Once we got to the water, it was a different story. Despite being loaded down with camping equipment, essential safety gear, and food for 2 people for a week, the kayaks felt light as we navigated through the lagoon to the start of the lake. Seeing the lake for the first time, and after so much research and planning, was a combination of relief and exhilaration. We were finally here. Murtle Lake is a lava-dammed lake located in Wells Gray Provincial Park, East Central, BC. This is the largest lake in North America where only canoes and kayaks are allowed. No motorboats, no electric motors, no generators, no pets, no float planes, and no cell service. We spent the first 2 nights camped at Sandy Point, relaxing. But if I was being honest, I was recovering from the portage. On the 3rd morning, we headed north, mainly because we knew we would encounter fewer people and its more isolated campsites. We spent the next 3 days and nights relaxing, napping, fishing, paddling, and exploring the North Arm. Everywhere you looked were mountains. Mountains next to mountains next to mountains. We had smoky days, sunny times, and calm winds. There she is. Just hanging out in the middle of the lake, fishing. At the end of the week, we experienced an evening thunderstorm and heavy rain. After it was over, we walked the shoreline and discovered some fires that started in several locations near us. The park was closed in June, just before we had first planned on paddling this lake due to 2 wildfires. So we were on edge for a brief time until around midnight, when I was sure nothing resulted from the lightning strikes. The following day, we broke camp to make our way back to a different campsite, but we're windbound for 6 hours. I hate sitting on shore waiting out the weather. It's dull and usually uncomfortable. But we set up a tarp, put a tarp down on the ground, and hunkered down to get away from the wind. Once the winds died down enough, we moved quickly to our last site, just before the waves rolled in again. I'm fortunate enough to have a paddling partner who is always upbeat and positive and excited to be wherever she is. The next morning, we paddled to the put-in spot. The return portage was the same, but backward. Less cursing, less time sitting on the ground, catching our breath. I suppose that's a good thing. Yet, even after the grueling hauling of 2 kayaks, I'd return in a heartbeat. The peace and quiet of this lake cannot be experienced anywhere else.